Super stoked. Welcome back, guys. Litra Creative Corner. This is our, I want to say like 9th or 10th episode. It's going really well so far, but today we have a really awesome guest. So really stoked today. We have a technician turned efficiency guru. Dave Shay helps photographers around the world simplify their workflow, streamline their client experience, and delight their clients with top caliber imagery. I had a phone chat with this guy the other day. Really cool guy. So we're going to have Dave Shay come in. He's going to talk a lot of wedding photography. He works with clients. He shot Obama. He shot Gavin DeGraw. I should say he has photographed those people. He hasn't shot them. That could be taken into the wrong context. But yeah, he's photographed Obama, Gavin DeGraw, Biden, I think, as well, is what he told me. But we're going to talk a ton about the wedding photography aspect and what he does. So as soon as Dave Shay hops on to the live, we will have him join in. I got to lean forward here a little bit and see where, see if he's in. Thanks for hopping on, guys. Oh, there's the back of the studio. That's what that looks like. Another backdrop there. Let's see. See if we can get Dave joining in. Dave, where you at, dog? Where you at, Dave? There you are. Dave Shay, what is up, my man?
Hey, it's good to see you,
How are
man.
you? You too. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Got a fresh Corona haircut number 2 so far, so we're improving our form little by little.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I actually went the other day, had to wear like the mask. There was like hair falling into it and stuff. But yeah, it's good. It's nice
Oh, dude,
to
you're
be
so much
back.
better. I've been just like taking the buzzer to myself, and I'm like, I can't wait for my dude to be open again.
Yeah, I was surprised that that he was open. But anyways, the setup looks awesome, man. It looks like you play some guitar.
Yeah, little by little, getting there at least. I figure if I practice long enough, eventually I won't sound too bad.
Yeah, right. Not to get too far ahead, but who's that picture of behind you? I know you've taken that.
Yeah, so that's a band Need to Breathe. That's
Oh yeah.
one of their former members. He actually just left the band a little while ago, but one of my favorite concert experiences to date.
Very cool. Yeah, I've heard of Need to Breathe. I think your thing is mirrored, but are you a lefty or a righty? Because it looks like you're a lefty, but that might be.
I'm a righty.
Okay, right on. Yeah, I think it's just because it's flipped and mirrored. But I was like, See, I play left-handed, but
Oh, okay.
I'm not good, so it doesn't matter if I was left or right. So, so Dave, thanks so much for joining us. I know you and I chatted on Tuesday about a lot of stuff, but I kind of want to let the viewers and the listeners know a little bit about yourself. So spill the beans, man. This is your time.
Yeah, man. Well, I've got a pretty straightforward story. I kind of stumbled into photography, took an intro to digital photography course in college. I had played around with cameras before that, kind of like everyone. And eventually I kind of I kind of like this. And I kind of just started sticking with it. I started working with a great photographer up in New York. His name's Andres Valenzuela. And so I followed him, just carried his bags, did whatever I could, to weddings, to whatever I could. And did that for about a year before I was like, I think I might maybe start doing my own thing and going from there. And so my first year I did 5 weddings. My second year I did 15, and my third I did 53, which was absurd.
Wow.
Not something I'd recommend, but that rapid growth shaped the rest of my career into kind of the efficiency side of things that you mentioned before. Is really just how can I actually do the job that I want to while maintaining the life that I want to live? Like, what is this kind of photography career to me? Is it just me as an artist expressing myself? Is it me taking care of my family and all that? And so it's been a really cool
Absolutely.
run.
Well, you kind of had to do the work that you didn't want to do just so you could kind of get your foot in the door, but clearly that's paid off, right?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize. Like when we first get into it, we just start taking pictures just because we like it. Like the idea of controlling settings and adjusting aperture and figuring out the difference between ISO and shutter speed and what that looks like is so fascinating. And then eventually we're kind of left to figure out what to do with the rest of it. And I think that's where I got really lucky, was I was able to stick with it long enough to really kind of figure out my why behind what I do, which is cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. You kind of, like you said, you start by you doing the settings, and then you kind of learn to tell a story, whether it's through video or one photograph. And that's where the career really takes off, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, what's a working day look like for you? I mean, we talked about a lot of wedding stuff. Clearly, you shoot music as well, but what's kind of a working day look like for you? Maybe not a recent working day, but maybe more of a fun style working day. What does that look like?
Yeah, a whole lot of pajamas, some video
Yeah.
games here and there, time with the kids. Yeah, so I'm actually a big believer in vacation days, and so my normal work day is I'm either shooting or I'm not. And so if I get up for a shoot, I've got a pretty kind of regular system that I go through, depending even if it's commercial or wedding, whatever that is, where I kind of check over my gear, get everything ready, and then I kind of hightail out the door. I'm not a kind of cover a wedding part way kind of thing. I'm usually like an all day coverage guy, which means long hours, long days. I usually get started pretty early. I end pretty late. My record was a 22-hour wedding day, which was significantly
Wow.
terrible. It's just as bad as you would
Wow.
think it would be. um, and I had another. It was a 25-hour work day, but that was actually the day I photographed Obama that you mentioned before. So I photographed him, and I actually shot a wedding afterwards because I had messed up my schedule, which was the year of that chaos wedding that I was like, all right, we need to figure stuff out. So
Hey, but at
it's
least you got to photograph some pretty cool people, right?
yeah, it's been cool.
Awesome, man. Well, you said something interesting the other day on the phone, and it really stuck out to me. You said, and I'm going to look down at my computer here, but you said, my clients enjoy the fact that I let them enjoy their wedding day. So that sounds just like an average Joe quote, but coming from a photographer, especially with someone who has an assistant there helping them shoot, that's really important. So how did you find that balance, and how did you make that work?
So the funny thing is I found that balance by screwing it up for about 4 years.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I can act like I just figured this stuff out, but I've been lucky, and every photographer right now stands on the shoulders of giants. Like we look at the photographers that we get to learn from online for free. Like there are incredible photographers out there that are just offering all their education, just completely
Yeah.
free of charge, just trying to help each other out. And we never like I had some of that growing up in the kind of industry, but there's a lot more of that now than there's ever been. And so like most of this stuff is just a cumulative experience from other photographers from around the world, which is incredibly lucky. And so I started with those 53 weddings, and then I started photographing some important people. And so I was like, oh, look at me. Like I'm doing, so I got super puffed up and I got pretty cocky about it. Like if I'm being completely candid, and I let that really kind of create a monster where on these wedding days, I'd have couples that would hire me for my portraits, and they would say like, oh, these beautiful night portraits that I could make. And I'd set up like 3 or 4 lights, and we'd do this crazy thing. And I'd show like, look at the back of the camera, look at this. And look at how awesome I am is really what I was saying. And
Yeah.
I did that for about 4 years before I really just got sick of it. I had won every award I set out to win, the contests that I was entering, the stuff that I was doing. I had taken home the accomplishments that I had set out to do. And what I realized is I was making other people's wedding days around about me. And I didn't realize I was at a Fearless Photographers Conference in South Carolina. And two of my favorite people, my favorite photographers, Matt and Tara Thielen, they're amazing. If you haven't checked out their work, please do. They're fantastic, and they're even better people than they are photographers, which says something.
That's cool.
And they got up on stage and they looked out and they said, "Remember that it is their wedding day, not your photo shoot." And
Yeah.
I was sitting in the like kind of towards the back, and I was like fading in and out, and I was like, "Oh man!" And it just clicked for the first time. And so I was rebuilding my business at that point from the chaos from before. And so I started to take an approach of my entire wedding experience. So from the time they book me, my systems, every part of it, to the way that I interact with them on the wedding day. So if I show up, how am I helping them enjoy their day? How am I helping them maximize their experience of their wedding day? And that's now flown into everything that I do, like down to the smallest details that we just have incredible purpose with, just to make sure that we are taking care of our clients from start to finish. That's something I don't think I had thought of before. It was just about the next pretty picture I could create, and not
Right.
about the fact like this is a once in a lifetime thing for them. I need to be
Right.
treating that like I get to be there. Like that's a privilege, it's an honor. That's something that I should be taking with the utmost respect. And it took a while to get there. And honestly, it took a lot of my ego and a lot of it kind of falling by the wayside before I actually learned how to serve my clients.
Yeah, that's interesting. First off, kudos to you for admitting that, and then learning from your mistakes. I think a lot of people in this industry, their ego would never let them admit that, right? So I think it takes those steps in order to make yourself better, whether you are doing video or photo. And I expressed this to you the other day when we were chatting, but
it's very stressful being at a wedding and shooting it, and whether you're
Yeah.
doing photos or video, and there's so much going on. And you know, oops, I was out of focus there. Can you guys kiss again? Cut. No, you can't say that. So there are
Yeah.
little things that you have to learn how to manage. And the fact that you've been able to not only, you've been able to manage your creativity during those stressful times, but you've also allowed them to live out their day. And as I know you're married, as a married man myself, that's extremely important.
Yeah.
That is something that, we had a photographer there. Luckily, I knew him personally, and he did the same thing. But I know what you're talking about. You get excited, you shot a really cool image, you want to show them the back of the monitor, and a lot of that type of stuff, needs to stop. And
Yeah.
it allows it to feel a little bit more organic. Because 9 times out of 10, they have another place to be when you're taking their
Yeah.
photo. They need to be talking with their other guests that came and flew in from around the country and the world. And it's good. That stuck out to me when you said that. So I really wanted to get your input on that, and exactly how you go about that. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, it's one thing. So when we're in other places, or when we do like engagement sessions, or when we do day after sessions, which are other things that I've implemented in my business specifically now, to kind of pad other parts of it. So I'm not just working on just the wedding day, and we worry about that. When I was into those big, crazy portraits, I want to be creative, and I have that creative energy, and I have to consolidate that on a wedding day. So it's unfair of me to ask for a ton of time there. But there are
Right.
other ways on a wedding day or on a wedding experience with my clients that I can do super creative things and create these magical images for my couple without commandeering the entire day, which is really fun to play around with.
Yeah, and you have an assistant, I'm guessing, too, to help you capture those moments as well.
Yeah, so it's usually me, a second photographer who is on their own. They are seasoned as good as they get. I'm very lucky to have some of the best second photographers in the world. They're just fantastic people, fantastic shooters. And I also have an assistant with me. So it's usually a team of three of us.
Okay, and then I'm guessing not only are you allowing them to enjoy their wedding day, you have kind of taught your assistant and that other photographer how to do the exact same thing that you're doing, right, as a business?
Yeah, so every interaction that we have with them, and it's very forward, very something I remind them throughout the day. How are we thinking about this? What are we doing? Is this enriching their wedding day? Is what
Right.
I'm about to do, is this something that is helping screenshots? I can do all these things. I need to know that they are having the perfect day, and because realistically, a wedding day is 12 hours and it's done. So I've got
Right.
everything I need to squeeze into. I have to get into that 12 hours, and that's a lot of time. That's
Yeah,
not a
and
lot of time, by the way.
the fact that someone, said that at a seminar that you're setting through, you said you were maybe dozing on and off. Like, how many times have we been at those seminars at WPPI or CES or NAB, and
Yeah,
you're like, all right, just another dude talking on stage for his third day, but it's that one thing that you realize
yeah,
that you're doing wrong, and then that's what makes all of that work. That's why those companies have those people come in to talk, and it's that way you can implement that and make your workload better. And that's realistically what we're trying to do here on these lives, right? Is give out information and help these other creators, do just as good of work as you've learned to do.
yeah. It's really just it's a privilege to do what we do, and I don't think people fully understand how lucky we are to be photographers and actually like get paid for this stuff and go out. Like even if you're just getting paid a little bit, like I still get excited when a client pays me. I'm like, oh, you think I'm worth this?
Yeah,
Like, that's great. Like, and like I
for
said, I've
sure.
done this like 300 times. So it's been
Yep.
I've been doing it over and over again. So it's an honor to do what we do.
I look at it as like a currency exchange where it's like you're handing them the finished product, whether it's digitally or physically, like a print, and you're like, all right, here's your gold bar. And then it's
Yeah,
like, all right, here's my gold bar. And it's like, that's such a nice even trade. But,
yeah,
mine has work behind it. It makes you really respect the craft. And we're really lucky to be able
yeah.
to do what we do, right? So sometimes it takes the end of the day and that check maybe for you to realize that, but we truly have one of the best jobs in the world as creators. So you've shot over 300 weddings in 27 states. Dude,
Yeah.
dude, that's a lot. Like
Yeah.
that stressed me out just typing that number out when we were
Uh,
chatting. And how do you do that? I mean, I've done a lot of shoots myself, but how do you manage all of that? A lot of that's on the weekends, I'm sure, a lot of Saturday
yeah.
weddings. How do you do that with your family? What's your structure like in that work world?
Yeah, so I've learned a lot about balance. So like I said, I went from 15 weddings my second year into 53 my third, and I maintained that pace for a very short while, I can tell you that. And so a lot of it boils down to systems and how I structure things and just automating everything I get. I use a lot of software to do that. So I use software like Fundy, Shootproof, Tave, Zapier, things that I can do to automate stuff in the background or at least reduce time on things so that I don't have to go in and be involved in every single facet of my business.
Right.
So I try to streamline as much of that back end stuff as possible. But a lot of it just boils down to the biggest change I ever saw in my business is when I started trying to take care of not only my clients, but my clients' family, my clients' grandparents, their friends, and not
Right.
just looking at, all right, I've got to make the bride happy. Like, because that's what it started out as, right? And then when I would do commercial work, it would be the same thing. All right, I've got the product manager, I've got the director, I've got whoever I need to. This is my person I have to please, and that's it. And it's very easy to get in that mindset of, I'm just working for this person. But you, like, if you think about it on a wedding day or on a corporate shoot specifically, that person is sharing those images with somebody else. And
Right.
like the bride is sharing those images with her friends, with her family, with her husband, like whatever that looks like. And so if I've got those specific people in my mind and I only think about them, I'm really not helping them as much as I think I am. But if I start
Right.
thinking about every other, where these pictures are actually going, what they're going to be used for. Like if I look at somebody that's just brand new in business and they come to me, they're like, hey, I need a branding package and I need headshots and I need some pictures for my website. I have to not only think about them, but I have to think about their end client. How am I helping them be
Right.
happy? How am I helping them find somebody that's valuable and all that thing? And so I really think that's had a huge impact on growing my business because when I switched to that mindset of, hey, it's not just about me and some fancy pictures that I can take. Because you give me 30 minutes with a great couple and some decent lighting, like I can do some pretty fun stuff. Like
Sure.
I can get pretty creative. We can have some fun with it. Like I can do some crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, when they walk away from that, are they going to walk away and be like, yeah, my photographer kept me for 30 minutes just taking a single picture or whatever it is? Or are they going to be
Yeah.
like, I've got this memory that I can share. And so when I shifted to that model, I went from that 15 weddings a year to all of a sudden starting to really like blow up in terms of I would shoot a wedding and I would get like a bridesmaid at that wedding and be like, hey, you took a picture of me and my fiance and we weren't even the couple, but like we felt like the bride and groom on the wedding day or like whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And people notice when you treat them with value. Like specifically now, like I think we're noticing as a whole, like when we're locked up, like inside, like we're not going anywhere, we're not doing anything. We notice the companies that are taking care of us, right? Like we notice the
Yeah.
people that take care of us. And it's the same mindset
Absolutely.
that I try to have inside of my business and I instill into my employees as well. We take care of the people that are around us. And if you serve other people, it will so come back to you. Financially as well, yeah, but even just in the,
Yeah,
like,
but
I've had so many clients reach out to me in the middle of all this and be like, hey, are you doing okay? Can I pay my balance early? Like whatever that is, it's amazing. And that didn't happen overnight.
yeah, that's amazing, by the way, to hear that. I mean, that's when you know you're doing not only good work, but you're treating the client well. And as you're saying, making this experience whole for them, not taking up too much of their time, maybe being funny and developing a personal relationship with them while you're there. And then I like what you said about, hey, we weren't the bride and groom, but you took a photo of us. I love that aspect of transparency where everything's very clear. And then not only maybe that couple wasn't married, that was just a regular couple and they have a wedding in a year. Guess who they're going to call? Not only did they deliver, and they remembered the image for sure, but they remembered you as a person. And
Yeah.
I feel like as freelancers, that's something we have to remember is not only are we selling our product, not only do we need to help them sell their product or themselves, we are selling ourselves. So it's nice to keep that in mind. And it's clearly something that you've mastered.
And I've been, like I said, I've been lucky to learn a lot of this stuff the hard way. So it's not something, when I say 300 weddings, the first 100 weddings, like I screwed up a lot on those first 100 weddings.
For sure.
I screwed up
We
some
won't talk
things on
about
my
this.
last one.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to think about how much we learn, but you have to stop and really like evaluate and go, all right, how am I, look at your wedding day, look at your schedules, look at your, like in your corporate shoots, again, the same thing, no matter what you're photographing, you have to look at it from the mindset of, am I actually serving them or am I just trying to take a paycheck and get on out of here? Because that, like the
Right.
second one, you will not survive. There's too much competition.
Absolutely. And you can tell those people as well, not only in the product, but how they treat the person. Maybe like a quiet photographer or a quiet videographer, you've really got to express yourself and again, sell yourself. And there's also a process to all of that. What is your favorite part of the creative process? I mean, there are a lot of different aspects, from lighting to the photo to the lens you choose to the way you're coloring the images at the end, or the way you're working in post. What is your favorite part of the entire process, from pre-production to post-production to delivery?
Yeah, so I've got the two. I don't know if I have I got to pick two is basically where I'm at. Post production, I'm terrible at. I'm going to start with that. I am not the poster. I'm the guy that's trying to get things as good as I can as quickly as possible. And so I use develop presets. I use stuff. I just get it in, get it out the door. It's good to go. I'm great. So I'm not doing a ton of posts. Even on my commercial stuff, I'll usually outsource a lot of that stuff. But my pre-production, in terms of my system and setting my clients' expectation, that stuff like makes me just so excited, because I give my clients a guided experience. I don't just like throw them in, and that's no matter what genre I'm working in. So if somebody comes in as a commercial lead, I nurture them as a lead, and if they don't book me, they're going to make better decisions when choosing a photographer than they would have if they hadn't reached out to me. Because I'm going to give them information about what it looks like to have great photos versus what they should be looking for. How do you tell an amateur commercial photographer versus an experienced one? And the same thing with my couples. So that stuff really excites me. And the other thing that really excites me is getting something right in camera. I don't think I realized that for the first probably year and a half. It was like, oh, my stuff can just come out of the camera looking this good. I don't have to worry about what happens on the back end. And so when I finally had that click, that's what changed the game for me with lighting. And that's one of the things I like about Litra so much, is I can be mobile, but I can also get my image perfect out of camera. If I need to gel lights or adjust things, I don't have to worry about exposure, stuff like that. I can get it right on the first try. And that's why my post-processing is so efficient, is I don't have to look at the stuff because it's right before it gets there.
Well, you've developed this efficiency timeline, right? Where you do it correct up here, and then it takes you less time back here in post, right? So clearly Litra's made your life easier with being able to, gel lights. You told me on the phone that you keep a torch or a pro in your pocket. Let's go through some of those steps on how exactly Litra has helped you on set and on a wedding day.
Yeah, and so if I'm doing a wedding reception, and so wedding specifically on this, like you mentioned, I have to get everything in that single flow. I don't have the chance to repeat moments. If the couple dips in the middle of the first dance, I don't get to shoot that twice. And so a lot of the times I'm relying on strobes or setting up flashes around the floor or doing things like that. But what happens is I set up these off-camera flashes, and it's great, and I set stuff up. And then the couple starts going table to table. And my lights aren't set up table to table. They're set up on the dance floor. And so all of a sudden, this beautifully crafted light with the speed lights so that I can freeze motion and all this stuff is completely wasted. And so where Litra shines, great pun, sorry, the second kid turned me into a dad joke fiend, and now I just can't help myself. So where Litra really stands out above the rest is the fact that I can have consistent lighting in my pocket. So I have this Pro always with the barn doors on it, and this is always on my person. So from the time I show up for prep all the way through, I get in my car at the end of the night, I said goodbye to the couple already, this is always on me. And because I know I've got a 24 millimeter on my left hand side that I can grab, and with this light, and I can shoot like this, I will have any moment that I need to throughout the day. And so I can get up in people's business. I will throw somebody out of the way if I feel like a moment is about to happen and I'm not going to get it. I will make sure we're going to get it. But this is the mobile lighting kit that I didn't really know I needed until I really started playing around with, all right, what happens when they wander out of my zone? Because if I'm teaching off camera flash, I've got zones set up, and I can show you how to use 3 lights, 5 lights, 7 lights, whatever that looks like. But as soon as somebody walks outside of them, it's over. You're almost screwed if that happens in a live event. And that's where the Litra stuff just comes in key, is because I don't have to think about it. I can just grab it, go. And I've got and I think other camera brands and stuff can do this too, but on my Nikon, I just roll into auto ISO and just, it's a reaction at this point. It's not something I'm thinking about, but at first it's just, all right, now I've got this as well. So if you're doing a sparkler eggs, it's anything, it's just so much more mobile than having a light stand set up and all this other stuff.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that the light stand there's a big difference there, right? Because I remember when I was shooting weddings, I would leave lights up in corners of the dance floor when we're in the reception area. Okay, now something's plugged in. That's a tripping hazard. You're worried about someone knocking it over. There's so many things that you have to think about that you shouldn't have to think about. Now you pull the light out, it's good to go. Say it's too harsh here, bounce it off the ceiling. There's all these different things that you can do, and it's always at your fingertips. And whether your assistant has a camera or not, or the other guy or girl is there shooting, your assistant can be your light stand, right? Go run over there really quick, boom, and then set it up. And it just makes things a lot more easy. Again, efficiency, but it's a timing aspect for you. And again, I talk about this to a lot of the people we've had on. We've always had small lights, but we've never had small lights that can produce this kind of power, right? So that's what's made the difference.
Well, and not only the power, so you mentioned like light stands getting knocked over. I've had light stands knocked over so many times.
Right.
And usually, like, not to throw shade at a whole particular state, but usually wedding parties and receptions in New Jersey and New York seem to get a little more out of control than other places in the States. So so like I've had like 3 flashes, I think, broken in New Jersey at this point. But like the flashes go down and stuff like that, where the Litra stuff is durable. And when I say durable, like people are like, oh, how durable? Like, don't go testing things. But I've had like, I've tossed one to an assistant and just like they miss it, like goes crashing all over the place. Like, we have abused these things. We put them in crazy amounts, or like we know they're waterproof, but like I've had a lot of things. Like my iPhone was advertised as being waterproof, and I kind of maybe took it swimming once, and I was in Apple Care the next day. Like the Litra stuff, like we've done pouring rain. Like I've done underwater. Like we've done crazy stuff with these things. And they're there because what people don't think about is if you're sitting there playing around with your light and getting it all set and you're like, hang on 1 second, let me just get this done. Like that's taking away from moments that your client could literally be doing anything else. Like if it's a corporation, they could be working and doing their actual job instead of standing in front of you, right? Like they could be doing that. If it's a wedding client, they could be talking to their grandma, right? Like they could be doing all of these other things. So I have to be quick with my lights so that I'm making sure that I'm making the most of their time, just as I'm wanting them to make the most of mine. So these things, I mean, like I will throw them to an assistant and be like, just turn it on, I'll adjust, it's fine. Like, and I like physically chuck them through the air. And I've seen my 3-year-old do the same, throw my camera back, grab one of these things and check it. And I'm like, it's still gonna work the next wedding day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've made a good point too there about, you know, and that kind of goes back to your quote, my clients enjoyed the fact that I let them enjoy their wedding day. Like if it wasn't for that type of efficiency, then you would be making them wait and then they wouldn't enjoy their wedding day. So not only has it helped you with obviously on camera lighting, and you can see that in your image, it's helped the entire experience, right? So there's so many different ways that you can look at it. And to your point, at trade shows at CES and NAB, I used to throw them on the ground like hard and it got that reaction. People would laugh like really hard. I'd turn it on, I'd launch it on the ground, especially when the others weren't looking. But one time it bounced and like hit this lady in the ankle and she wasn't too happy about it. So I had to stop doing that. But the point of that is like, you're not afraid to put these things in water. You're not afraid to throw them at, you can throw it at a brick wall. I mean, you literally can throw it at a brick wall as hard as you can and it won't work. So to your point, if a light stand falls over, there's no issue there. Not only are you worrying about that, you don't have to worry about people getting hurt. There's so many like things that a photographer doesn't need to be thinking about on a wedding day, just so they can help that bride and groom have their wedding day. So that's really cool. How has Litra kind of helped you accomplish those lighting goals? Obviously, we've talked about what we just talked about with efficiency, but what can that Pro do besides being compact and small and rugged? What can it do for the image?
So, I mean, you've got complete control. So if I want, the nice thing about the Pro specifically, it's the only LED I've ever worked with that doesn't have a pink, magenta or green shift to it.
Yeah.
So again, I'm very focused on quality of light. If something saves me 3 clicks on every single image in post, that's saving me hours of my life. So if I know my light is consistent right out the gate, that's going to speed up my experience. That's going to speed up my turnaround time. That's going to mean I'm spending less time editing, like all this stuff. And so the consistency that Litra offers between the power of the light, knowing that I can take it in any place. Like I showed up to photograph a musician. I think it's an image that Litra's featured on their Instagram or something. And it was a image of a musician in his studio, and there was a whole set in his studio. His studio was a 1-bedroom like apartment, like a 1-bedroom in his apartment. And I was operating in a bedroom, like trying to make everything work, right? And I was able to take gels right there. I was able to control my color temperature, all this stuff in like a very difficult environment to control. And that's just because I came in and I didn't have to set up these giant bulky lights and do all this stuff when I could just grab and go. all right, I'm just going to put this one here, this one here, this one here. We're great. And I like the fact that I can be flexible with them too. Like I find that it's easier for me to add in more LEDs than it is to add in more flashes, because I can start to see it before I have to measure. So if I set up flashes and I do them in 5 different places, I have to look and go, all right, A is firing at this power, B is firing here, C, and like start to think about that in my mind, visualize it, then shoot and be like, all right, it's right. Or, oh no, I have to go make adjustments. When I look, I can see the balance between B and A right before I take the exposure. So it's really just cool. It's a speed thing. It's really more than anything else. It's a speed and efficiency thing for me. And then the fact that the quality is so great is really just the game changer. That was what when I was just like, all right, I'm in. As soon as like, because the idea of an LED, like I love shooting with an LED, but like you mentioned, there's never been one powerful enough.
Right.
And now that there is, it's the added, all right, is it, so it's powerful enough? Is it consistent enough? Is it portable enough? Does the battery last long enough? And
yeah, because you went kind of from this strobe to this modeling light aspect, which is really cool. And then to your point, again, time is money, not only for you, but for the bride and groom. And it all just kind of succinks together in this nice yin and yang. So we had some questions come in. Carlos asked a couple questions. Can you remote control them? So specifically, Carlos, right now we're talking about the Litra Pro. And yes, you can control them by your cell phone, which is really cool. You have 3K all the way up to 6K range for your Kelvin control. And then you have in 5% increments, 0 to 100. So yes, they're very controllable. And the second question was, can you control more than one of them? Yes, you can. I think you can control up to 8 of them, and you can control them at different times. So, and not in sync, I should say. So you can sync them all together, and you control one slider and one Kelvin bar, and they'll all activate and go around you and change, or you can do them all in one unsuccinct order. So have you used that feature before, Dave?
It's that's probably one of my favorite questions. So I've used other LED lights specifically for places where I can't set up flashes. Anyone that's ever done South Asian events, and so I've done a few South Asian events, specifically weddings, and so you've got potentially a 2 to 3 hour ceremony. And so with that 2 to 3 hour ceremony, I've got to get stuff set up, and I usually have to set up lights because it's indoors somewhere. And I've done a lot of these with there's another great photographer to mention, Charmy Pena. And so she's taught me a lot about this stuff, but her and I have worked together. And so now she's using Litra lights as well. And these, she's fantastic. And so she's a Nikon ambassador, fantastic photographer. She's taught me a ton. And when we first started shooting together, we would use these lights, and the phone app was in another language. And so we would like try to like control stuff, but like then you'd like disconnect one, and then you're like, oh no, like how do you, the Litra app, again, speaking to that level of consistency, like I can set 2 up in the corners of everything and be like, all right, we're good to go. Like I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
The Mundup's lit, everything's ready to go. I'm not going to be stressed now because I know I can turn these on, I can dial back power. So like I'll photograph for a little bit, I'll turn them off, save some battery, shoot a little bit more, take them off. Like I have that level of control from the audience, and I can do it very gradually. So it doesn't look like, it's not like bam, flash, flash, flash. So there's a lot of control there. And I also do them use the remote on other things, but that's probably where it's best.
Yeah. Have you, I think we talked, you haven't had a chance to use the Studio yet, but I was going to let Carlos know that the Studio, the new light that Litra just came out with, not only is controllable in the same way, you can do them in 1% increments. You can change the complete RGB WW, so you have complete control over all the colors. Yeah, it's actually really crazy. And then obviously you can control the effects on the phone. It's insane.
It's such a cool ecosystem in general. I mean, being able to control the lights from a distance, but even just the level of control you get just right up close is just fantastic.
Yeah, Shoot Guru said he might use that technique, so that's really cool. It's a great thing. So that's it right there. That's what this thing's all about, is just helping others maybe learn from the lights and other things like that, and different techniques that you can learn from professionals like yourself. Can you put them on a schedule? No, you can't put them on a schedule. Like say you want it to kick on at like 8 a.m. or something. I'm sure that could be implemented maybe in firmware. But it does have battery control, and that's another important thing, is like you can see your battery on the phone, whereas you don't have to look up at the LED panel. So that's kind of important. But no, as far as the time schedule goes, You can't do that. You can put the studio into like overdrive mode, but again, that's not really scheduling, but it does allow you to have a lot of different creative options. I want to talk a little bit about accessories because we've started to kind of dive into the lights themselves. You mentioned the barn doors on the Pro. What is your favorite Litra accessory and why?
So I'm using this. So I've got the softbox up right now to light me, which from a close distance does great. There's a lot of times where I photograph a special needs prom every year. It's called Night to Shine. It's a really cool event. And I'm not allowed to use flash at the event. There's a lot of people there with epilepsy, and so you have to be very, very cautious. And so one of the nice things is I'll use the softbox to shoot that for the entire reception kind of bit, where it's all the dance floor type stuff. And so I'll use the softbox so I can get kind of close without being too up in people's faces. And so the softbox is nice. But as as I mentioned, this thing right here, the barn doors, the level, I'm all about control of my lighting. I want to be able to see exactly where I'm putting my light, and I want to make sure it's not spilling where I don't want it to. And so just the level of control here, this is why this is on me all the time, because I can very easily, I'm photographing with a 24 millimeter usually when I'm using this up close. And so I will hold this just like this, and then I can just make these small adjustments right while I'm holding it. And so it's a lot easier to do this than any other. I haven't found that level of control with any other modifier. And so like I've even got now like where I can feel the buttons and I know which button does what. And so, but this is a comfortable shooting position for me, and I've just gotten used to it. And so the barn doors are absolutely I get the most mileage out of. I think they're on all my Pros for every wedding day at least. I think I've got barn doors on everything. Sometimes I'll break out the softbox, but these are where it's at for me.
I asked that question to a lot of our creators, and the softbox always gets number one. But I do agree, like obviously the softbox is amazing because it folds up. It's so compact, nice soft tones on the face, nothing sharp. But to your point on the barn doors, that's actually what's hanging above me right now and giving me this kick light that's on top of my head. So it's on 5% right now, the lowest it can go. It's about 2 feet behind up behind me, and it's got the barn door, and it's just a slit of light, and it allows me to control that light. So you can actually see I move into it a little bit more, and if I go too far forward, it's gone. So to your point, full control over whatever your subject is. So as long as I'm staying here in this right zone, we should be good to go. So I like that you said the barn doors, because that's a very unique product. And we have them for the torch now too, which is really cool. They're a little bit smaller, so that's super helpful, so you can control that torch light, especially since you can't do the 5% increments on the torch like you can the Pro.
Well, especially with the torch, I use a lot for detail photographs, be it like and we mentioned the other day, a bottle of whiskey or wedding rings or any kind of small thing where I'm using a close up. And I know lens flare is like, when you first get into photography, you're like, I want all the lens flare. Like now I'm like, get it out of my picture. I'll use it like once every like couple of shoots. I'm like, all right, let me get some good flare going. But like it tries, like I feel like it a lot of times for me, I used it to make a garbage photograph look good. I was like, well, there's nothing interesting happening here, so let me make it interesting, right? And so I hate lens flare in a lot of my stuff, and the barn doors are the easiest way to guarantee that I don't get it when I don't want it. So if I'm trying to make a photograph about the rings or about a couple or about like just, all right, this is what I want to show off, I get so much more control and just make sure that stuff doesn't happen. So little technical things like that are a lot easier when I don't have to worry about like a ton of light blaring in.
Yeah, and if for some reason you did want the lens flare for something specific, just
open them
pop
up.
them open. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. No, that's really cool. So I always kind of like to leave the viewer and the listeners on a piece of advice from our creators. So what is a piece of advice that you would give somebody just trying to get into the industry full time? I mean, obviously we've talked about trial and error and lots of hard work and dedication, but like what's something that they could really take away from this?
Yeah, so and this will be, it'll sound counterintuitive, so I almost ask that you trust me on it. But beware of hustle. Hustle is a great thing. It's one of the things that I learned early, and I was like, I'm going to be the best photographer in New York, where I started my business. And so you think about these sort of things, and it's very easy to get so consumed with trying to do something that you create something unsustainable. And so many people, they get into photography, they try to go, and they try to rush through the practice portion. And when you try to rush through practice, you wind up missing all the lessons you're supposed to be learning. And so if you rush through those first 100 weddings, those first 50 corporate shoots, those first whatever, if you rush clean through that, you're going to miss a lot. And so let me just make sure. Looks like we're cutting out a little bit here. There we go.
Yeah, it froze up for a second.
Yeah.
As soon as you went into that, it was like, brr, brr, brr. I was like, oh no.
Well, so like
So you might have to restart.
No, it's fine. So when so as photographers, we get so fascinated by the idea of taking these pictures, and we really get obsessed with creativity and what we can do with it. And so as we dive in, we start going more and more and more, and we wind up working in reasonable hours, and then we achieve that full-time thing, be it through and there's a lot of ways that you can do. Like I shot a ton for free. I know that's countercultural right now. I did a lot not for exposure. I will never shoot for exposure, but I will shoot for practice a lot. And there's pictures that I've done that wound up selling commercially later on that I did just for me, just to see if I could understand this type of light. I'm notorious for setting things up on my kitchen table and just seeing like, all right, how can I make this look good or whatever? But beware of hustle in the fact that it can be so easy to create something you can't sustain. And so if the idea is to create a full-time business, make sure it's a full-time business you want to work for. Don't work 90-hour weeks and pretend like it's going to make you happy for the next 7 years. If you're working 90-hour weeks for any other job, like I would quit that job. Like it's not sustainable long-term. And so be careful in those early stages. And there are great photographers out there that can teach you specific, like how to get more leads, how to market yourself better, how to do all this stuff. But be careful that you don't build something unsustainable, because what really matters at the end of the day is what the life you want to live. Like for me, I'm all about spending time with my wife and kids. And so my photography career is dedicated to that. And so I really care about marriage. I really think that it shapes the way just people enjoy the world. Like I think that better marriages equal better communities, equal better nation. Like I absolutely believe there's power there. And so I want to be a part of that. And so I really take that highly. But at the end of the day, I also care drastically about my own family. And so that's my why. But you have to get that kind of set in stone early so that you don't get away from it. Because like when I was shooting 53 weddings a year, like, on paper, like I was making absurd amounts of money and I was very young. And so like, it was great. Like I checked all those boxes, but like it was unsustainable. I was working like 83-hour weeks consistently. And that's just not something people can do for a long time. So just making sure that it's sustainable, I think, is the biggest thing that I would say. Because there's all sorts of stuff you can do to be kind of practical, game business and stuff. You can do a lot, just through doing shoots and blogging them and taking things for practice. And so you feel like, hey, I can deliver a consistent client experience. But beware of hustle is the biggest thing I'll say.
No, I think that's super important. And it's a good way to look at it, like being realistic, right? Just, those 83-hour weeks, those, you're going to wear yourself out physically. And I like what you said about, you can shoot for free, but think of it as practice. I always had this mentality of if I was going on a shoot and I knew it had legs, like I was working with someone, I'm not going to name drop, but the shoot was only like $400, but I was going to be there all day in the freezing cold and I was going to have to edit it. And I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I want to work with this person. I always think about it as like, it's like I'm going to the gym. I'm working out.
Absolutely.
This is my gym right now. I'm just perfecting my craft. I'm here to learn more. I'm here to make something probably pretty cool. And I think of it as more of like a workout routine. It's like, okay, I'm just going to work on my craft here and think of it that way. And it helps the mind. It puts it at ease a little bit, and then it slows things down for you a little bit. And then it always gives you something to look forward to.
Yeah. And that's my favorite quote in all of business. And I wish I knew the source. I've never managed to track it down, but it's success happens when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And the idea that if I do my homework now, when an opportunity presents itself, that's when I get to go. Because like that, even that image behind me, like I didn't get that my first try, right? Like I had photographed a ton of nobody musicians. I had photographed a ton of just like horrible jobs for terrible pay, if paid at all, just to get, but like, because I had done all of those, when I got called up and I got given the opportunity to photograph some bigger people, that's when I was ready. Like I knew what I was going to do. I was confident in the situation because I had already done it hundreds of times. And that's the thing is like, don't despise those small beginnings because they give you so much power to take on the big opportunities with so much more confidence.
Yeah, it's like the 5 Ps. Preparation prevents piss poor performance, right? It's the exact same type of thing. So, no, man, that's great. And super good information there. And I'm super stoked that you were able to join us today on the Creative Corner. I think hopefully the listeners and viewers got a lot of good insight. And I like your work mentality, man. I could tell just by talking to you the other day, like you're a good dude. And if I was getting married in the future, I would definitely give you a call. So if anyone is on here, you should definitely give Dave a call. His images are amazing. You can check his website out. It's just daveshay.com from what I know. And then obviously at Dave Shay. You admitted the other day that you're not the best on Instagram, but I saw your work and it looks amazing. And check out the website; it's really cool. Give Dave some kudos, and feel free to ask him any questions that you'd like. I'm sure in the future. And what's your email address, Dave? If someone wants to send you an email.
So right on my website, daveshay.com. And if you have a hard time remembering daveshay.com, you can always go to myphotographerlovestacos.com. And I have it's a real URL. You can test it out. I own it. There's a contact form on there specifically for photographers tab. And I give anything through there. Also, shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm not great at posting on Instagram. Generally, if I do, I'll schedule something out and then I'll come and post it. But I'm great at responding to stuff. So if you have questions, if there's something I said today, or if there's something you're struggling with that I can help with, please reach out. Like I said, the only reason I've been able to learn what I've been able to learn is people have been very gracious with me. And so if there's a way for me to pay that forward, I'm more than happy to.
Awesome, man. No, that's great. That's what this is all about. So Dave, thanks so much, man. It was awesome chatting with you, and hopefully we get to chat more in the future. I host a podcast that I'd love for you to be a part of in the future if you have any interest. So that could be really fun.
Man. That would be awesome, man. It'd be good to see you again, Drew. And as soon as we're all back outside, or at least not in my hot upstairs bedroom where I normally just veg out, it would definitely be good to hang out again.
Let's do it, man. Sounds good. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate your time, man. You're awesome.
Absolutely. Catch you soon, man.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. See you, man.
See ya.
Dave Shay, everyone. How cool is that guy? Like, you should go to his website, daveshay.com, or My Photographer Loves Tacos. I kind of want to do that now, like buy a URL that says something like that. It might be like, my cinematographer loves Chinese food. I don't know. I'll have to work on that. Loves General Tso's. Who knows? I don't know. It's a work in progress. Leave me alone. Anyways, guys, it was great to see you again. It was great to have Dave on. He's absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Creative Corner. We will be back at our later time next Thursday. We did it a little bit earlier today just because we can. And next week, it'll be around the evening time again. So we will see you guys next Thursday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, this is Litra's Creative Corner, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.